You feel it, don't you? That knot in your stomach. The racing thoughts that keep you up at 3 a.m. The invisible weight on your chest, even when everything looks fine. It creeps in from nowhere. Or maybe it's just the ghost of tomorrow's worries haunting you today. You try the usual. Deep breaths, distractions, faking it till you make it. But deep down, it's still there. And then the vicious cycle hits. Fear of feeling fear. Anxiety about being anxious. Guilt for not being able to just be okay. Be okay. Society tells us this is a problem, a flaw to be fixed, something fundamentally wrong with you. But what if all of that is wrong? What if anxiety isn't a defect, but a profound, unfiltered signal? A symptom of something much bigger, much deeper. In this video, we're not handing out quick fix breathing exercises or productivity hacks to tame your mind. What you're about to hear might actually feel a little uncomfortable, but it could also be profoundly liberating. Because maybe, just maybe, no one has told you that this persistent restlessness, this gnawing unease, is a legitimate cry from your consciousness. Not a mistake to be corrected, but a message demanding to be heard. Alan Watts, the legendary philosopher, famously said, "The desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing." Paradoxical, right? But it contains a brutal truth. The harder you grasp for emotional stability, the more anxious you become. Why? Because anxiety is born from our stubborn refusal to accept that life is inherently impermanent, unpredictable, and ultimately uncontrollable. We suffer because we're desperate to control the one thing that will always slip through our fingers, the future. So, pause for a moment. Really think about this. What are you trying to outrun? Failure? Heartbreak? Abandonment? The ultimate unknown of death? Whatever it is, anxiety shows up as your body's primal alarm system, wired to react to uncertainty. And that's where biology steps onto the stage. Robert Sapolsky, one of the greatest neuroscientists alive today, unpacks this brilliantly in his book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. He reveals that the stress response system that consumes us modern humans was originally a finely tuned survival tool. Our brains evolved to react to immediate, physical threats, like a lion ambushing us on the savannah. But today, that predator is a buzzing phone notification, an urgent email, or just a spiraling thought. And the alarm, it keeps ringing. You're not going crazy. You're just an ancestral body trying to navigate a modern world. Your ancient brain doesn't know there's no actual lion hunting you. It reacts the same primal way. Muscle tension, a pounding heart, shallow breath. And when this full-blown emergency response fires off day after day, hour after hour, what was meant to be a life-saving defense mechanism becomes an internal prison. A constant state of alert, with no all-clear signal in sight. But here's the game changer. What if you stopped fighting it? What if, instead of constantly trying to squash, control, or escape anxiety, you learn to understand it? To see it not as a flaw, but as a legitimate reflection of your complex, messy humanity? This video is for you if you're utterly exhausted from battling yourself. For you who have tried everything. Therapy, meditation, medication, escape, and still feel that unfillable emptiness growing. Here we're diving deep. We're going to look at anxiety in a way you've probably never been shown, as a mirror, a symptom, and maybe, just maybe, your most profound teacher. And from this new vantage point, everything might shift. Don't expect easy answers. But if you're ready to face the truth, and yourself, you might just find something far more valuable than temporary relief. Clarity. So, tell me, are you ready? Because after this, you won't see your anxiety the same way again. In his seminal work, The Wisdom of Insecurity, Alan Watts lays bare one of the most uncomfortable truths of modern existence. We live in a perpetual state of anxiety because we are utterly obsessed with security. But here's the kicker. This very obsession is the root of our insecurity. Our relentless desire to control the future, to guarantee a smooth outcome, is precisely what spirals us into fear and paralysis. What paints a picture of modern humans as ghosts, perpetually caught between a past that's gone and a future that hasn't arrived. We're always projecting ourselves forward, meticulously anticipating risks, desperately trying to secure stability and avoid chaos. But in this frantic process, we neglect the only place where life truly unfolds: the now. According to Watts, we're stuck in a loop of continuous frustration because we crave a certainty that the very fabric of reality cannot provide. Nature is fluid. Life is flow. Everything is impermanence. Everything is in constant transformation, including you. But instead of embracing this fundamental truth, we cling to fragile, illusory structures, rigid plans, monumental goals, desperate controls, as if these could somehow fend off the inevitable. And it's this resistance to what is, this fight against the natural order, that generates the relentless tension we label as anxiety. For Watts, anxiety isn't a glitch in your mental system. It's a perfectly natural reaction to the sheer absurdity of trying to live as if life were predictable. We're terrified of emptiness, of silence, of death. So, we invent elaborate ways to fill those voids. Careers, relationships, religions, endless distractions. But none of these constructs deliver the security we seek, because none of them are static. Everything slips away. Everything changes. Everything dies. And the more fiercely we try to keep everything locked down, the more anxious we become. Watts put it simply: the search for security is a contradictory desire. When you seek to feel secure, you are precisely assuming that you are not. And that, in itself, is insecurity. This is the core insight. Anxiety doesn't stem from reality itself, but from our futile attempts to deny it. We want to control the ocean waves instead of learning to surf. We demand a stable future in a universe of eternal flux. And in this desperate grasping, we actually stop living. In fact, Watts argues, the more you try to meticulously plan your entire life, the more you lose touch with actual life, which exists only in this present moment. And here's Watts' final impactful blow. There is no true liberation as long as you insist on resisting the now. It's only when you deeply accept the inherent instability of existence that your mind can truly begin to relax. Anxiety, in this context, dissolves not through brute force, but through profound understanding. Not through escape, but through radical surrender. But if the root of anxiety is this mind-driven resistance to the present, what happens when we shift our gaze to the body? What if this relentless state of alertness is more than just a mental pattern? What if it's deeply, biologically ingrained? That's what we'll unravel next. In Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, Sapolsky kicks off with a brilliant, provocative question. Why don't wild animals like zebras get ulcers, while stressed-out humans do? The answer is brutally simple. Because animals only activate their stress system when faced with real immediate danger. A lion lunges. The zebra's body goes into total emergency mode. Adrenaline, cortisol, rapid heartbeat, muscles primed for flight. But as soon as that danger passes, the system shuts down. The body swiftly returns to balance. Now hold that thought and compare it to you. You're not running from any physical predator. Yet your body acts as if you are. You're lying in bed, thoughts swirling about a looming work meeting, the ambiguous end of a relationship, the specter of failure, the inevitable loss of loved ones, or your own existential insignificance. And your body collapses. A pounding heart, shortness of breath, clammy sweat, muscle tension, insomnia. And the cruelest part, this relentless cycle repeats day after day, week after week, for months, even years. Your brain is stuck in a perpetual alert, never getting the all-clear signal that the danger has passed. Sapolsky illuminates that our highly sophisticated human stress system was engineered to solve immediate, physical problems. But we've essentially hijacked it. We've rerouted this ancient system to deal with abstract concepts, social expectations, emotional insecurities, unresolved traumas, existential dilemmas. The result? Our body short circuits. This collapse manifests in very real, visceral ways. Digestive issues, hair loss, hormonal imbalances, a compromised immune system, cardiovascular problems, even depression. And it gets even more tragic. What makes this uniquely human is the sheer power of anticipation. While most animals only feel stress in the face of an actual threat, we are capable of suffering from threats that don't even exist. Sapolsky explains that the mere anticipation of a problem is enough to trigger a full-blown physiological stress cascade. In other words, you could be perfectly healthy, safe, and comfortable at home. But if your mind conjures up a disaster, your body will react as if you're already living through it. And so we endure, stressed by ghosts, assaulted by our own thoughts, dominated by a biology that was simply not built for the demands of the modern world. We are descendants of hunter-gatherers, living amidst screens, relentless deadlines, and existential pressures. But our ancient brain still fundamentally understands only two commands: survive or die. Sapolsky forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The problem isn't anxiety itself, but the fact that it's being activated daily for reasons that are not real. And as long as we fail to grasp this biological root, as long as we mistakenly treat anxiety as a weakness or a lack of discipline, we will continue to punish ourselves for what is, in reality, a natural mechanism distorted by an artificial context. But now, an inevitable question arises. If this anxiety we feel is a product of evolution, and also our refusal to accept the present, how do we possibly escape this labyrinth? If it serves both a biological and philosophical function, how do we stop seeing it as an enemy and begin to understand it as a crucial signal? In the next part, we'll take a decisive step, understanding how this anxiety can actually be an invitation to profound awareness. We find ourselves trapped in a cruel paradox. The more knowledge we accumulate about the world, the more insecure we become. The more access we have to information, the more our anxiety skyrockets. The more choices laid before us, the deeper the paralysis. We are living in what Alan Watts called the era of insecurity, disguised as progress. A civilization that idolizes control but has built its very foundation on fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of losing control over what has never truly been ours to control. Watts argued that this modern collapse begins in the mind and spreads like an invisible epidemic through our bodies, our culture, and our relationships. From a young age, we're taught a rigid script. Have a plan, find your purpose, maintain a clear direction, be productive, be stable, be emotionally regulated. Yet, simultaneously, we're bombarded by relentless uncertainties that none of these promises can sustain. Life changes. The world plunges into crisis. People leave. Our bodies inevitably falter. Chaos inevitably invades. And suddenly, everything that seemed rock solid dissolves before our eyes. And what's our knee-jerk reaction? We frantically rush to control even more. We set new goals, chase new techniques, follow new gurus. We construct obsessive routines, delve into self-help philosophies, and recite motivational speeches that, deep down, are nothing more than desperate attempts to silence a primal fear. But as Watts would remind us, the more you try to grasp water with your hands, the more it slips through your fingers. Anxiety, then, arises as an unavoidable reflection of this futile struggle. a mind that utterly refuses to accept impermanence, and a body that collapses trying to obey impossible orders. Robert Sapolsky powerfully reinforces this tragedy from a biological standpoint. He shows us conclusively that our stress systems were designed for short-term, acute events. Our bodies were simply not built to sustain a constant state of alertness. So, what happens when this system is activated day after day, for months, even years? What happens when the perceived threat never truly vanishes because it exists only in your head? The answer is stark. Collapse. Not metaphorical, but literal. Cells age prematurely. Cognitive functions deteriorate. Our immune response is compromised. An anxious mind doesn't just suffer. It quite literally makes the entire body sick. And the cruelest twist? Even amidst these alarming signs, we stubbornly insist on blaming ourselves. We convince ourselves that anxiety is a weakness, that stress is a lack of balance, that we just need more willpower. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be more destructive. Both Watts and Sapolsky converge on a central, undeniable point: resisting the inherent nature of life, whether psychologically or biologically, creates suffering. And this suffering manifests as chronic anxiety, as existential exhaustion, as that nameless emptiness you feel, but can't quite articulate. But what if we stopped resisting? What if, instead of continuing to fight against anxiety, we began to listen to it? What if this constant state of tension wasn't a disease to be cured, but a language? An insistent attempt by your body and mind to tell you that something fundamental needs to change. That's exactly what we're going to talk about next. So, what if, instead of relentlessly trying to eliminate anxiety, what you truly need is to understand it as a complex language? A language your psyche, your body, and even your personal history are using to try and wake you up. When observed deeply, anxiety reveals itself less as the problem and more as a profound symptom. It's a reflection of something internal that's been neglected, unheard for far too long. It's the piercing alarm that sounds when there's a fundamental incoherence between what you live on the outside and what you deeply feel on the inside. When your external life dutifully follows a script of obligations, masks, and expectations, but your internal truth screams for authenticity, for pause, for meaning. In this profound sense, anxiety isn't your enemy. It's the fierce guardian standing at the boundary between the false and the true within you. Alan Watts grasped this with disconcerting clarity. For him, psychological suffering invariably arises when we desperately try to sustain an identity that simply doesn't align with reality. We yearn to appear secure, utterly controlled, undeniably strong, even when on the inside we're crumbling. And as he powerfully wrote, to be insecure is to be alive. Pretending otherwise is the perfect recipe for collapse. Watts proposed that anxiety is the friction, the raw static, between who we authentically are and who we desperately pretend to be. A brutal, non-negotiable reminder that we cannot continue living unconsciously without eventually paying a steep price. On the biological front, Sapolsky provides us with the undeniable physiological basis for this internal collapse. He shows there's an inherent intelligence to stress, a deep evolutionary function. It exists to protect you, to alert you, to prepare you for action. But when this intricate system is consistently ignored, repressed, or distorted, it inevitably begins to turn against you. Anxiety ceases to be adaptive and becomes self-destructive. But notice, this isn't happening because the system is wrong. It's happening because you stopped listening. You started fighting it instead of understanding it as a crucial ally trying to get your attention. And it's precisely at this pivotal point that a radical new possibility opens up. What if, instead of perpetually denying what you feel, you learn to simply observe it? Not to judge it, not to react impulsively, not to flee from it. Just to observe. To be utterly present with the sensation, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. Because it is in this state of radical attention that true transformation begins. When you stop seeing anxiety as an enemy, it dramatically loses its power to dominate you. This isn't about romanticizing suffering. It's about recognizing that it has a profound purpose. That pain can be a messenger of growth. That anxiety, despite its frightening appearance, can be a potent invitation to presence, to lucidity, and ultimately to profound change. Anxiety, in this new context, is the inverse of alienation. It is the very beginning of awareness. And awareness, my friend, is the first real step towards freedom. But to truly walk this path, you need more than just abstract ideas. You need tangible tools. You need practices that bring you back to your body, back to solid ground, back to the present moment. In this next part, we're moving from the philosophical to the profoundly practical. We'll explore how to start reconnecting with the here and now, how to return to the body, and how to find that deep sense of safety that your mind has been desperately trying and failing to manufacture. Anxiety won't disappear with a magic wand, but it can begin to dissolve when you learn to return to where life truly happens. Right here, right now. If what you're hearing here resonates deeply, you'll find incredible value in my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Jung's core ideas and gives you practical tools to understand yourself on a much deeper level. The link is in the pinned comment. The time has come to make perhaps the hardest and simultaneously most transformative move, to leave the endless loop of your head and return to the grounded wisdom of your body. Because as long as you remain trapped in that relentless cycle of thought, constantly trying to predict, analyze, understand, and control, anxiety will continue to feed on your absence from the present. The mind alone cannot heal what it has created. You must descend. You must return. You must reconnect. Alan Watts famously declared that the secret of life is to be completely engaged with what you are doing here and now. He didn't offer this as a fluffy self-help platitude, but as a direct call to practice. Watts knew that the human mind exhausts itself trying to control the uncontrollable because it has lost the fundamental ability to be present in what is real. And being present isn't some airy-fairy concept. It is rigorous training. It is a discipline. It is a profound relearning of the utterly obvious. And that's precisely where biology becomes your most powerful ally, not an obstacle. Robert Sapolsky demonstrates that physiological stress, the kind that grinds us down, can be profoundly alleviated with simple, but not superficial, actions. Things like consciously breathing, intentionally slowing down, moving your body, prioritizing good sleep, allowing genuine pauses, expressing your emotions authentically, and cultivating secure, meaningful connections. All of this is part of the antidote, not to erase anxiety, but to restore the lost sense of balance to your body. Deep breathing, for instance, isn't just a relaxation trick. It's a powerful way to actively reprogram your autonomic nervous system. By deliberately prolonging your exhalation, you send a clear signal to your ancient brain that the immediate danger has passed. And your brain, in turn, begins to deactivate its survival mode. Sapolsky explains that practices like these have a direct measurable effect on your cortisol and adrenaline levels, the primary hormones of chronic stress. But there's something even deeper at play. Radical observation. Learning to simply notice anxiety as it arises, like a wave building and then cresting, and then resisting the ingrained temptation to control it or flee from it. Just feeling, just being there with the raw sensation. This is the beginning of the end of the reactive cycle. This is when you start to train what psychology labels emotional regulation, but what Watts might prefer to call surrender to reality. It's the moment you become larger than the emotion itself, not because you've mastered it, but because you've utterly embraced it. Being present is actively resisting the magnetic pull of the future. It's breaking that insidious addiction to trying to solve your entire life before you even take the next step. It's a deliberate return to your body, to the now, to the simple sound of your own breath, to the tangible texture of the chair beneath you, to the firm touch of the ground on your feet. And gradually, incrementally, this begins to reverse the deep imbalance. Not as a magical overnight solution, but as a daily, conscious reconstruction of your entire relationship with the world. Anxiety diminishes when your body is fully included in the equation. When you stop living solely in the mind and start to exist as a whole, integrated being. When you let go of trying to logically understand everything and begin to trust direct, felt experience. Because your body knows what your mind has forgotten. That life happens one precious moment at a time. But this leads us to an even deeper, more profound revelation. If anxiety isn't a mistake, if it has deep roots in both our body and mind, and if it carries legitimate, vital messages about how we are living, then perhaps it isn't an obstacle to be overcome at all. Perhaps it is an essential, if uncomfortable, part of our journey. In this next and final part, we will integrate all of these insights. We will look at anxiety with new eyes, not as something to be eliminated, but as a potent sign that something truly profound within you is trying to awaken. What you are about to hear next may forever change the way you see yourself. We've reached the end of this deep dive, but perhaps this is where everything truly begins for you. Throughout this video, you've been invited to confront a new way of looking at something that has likely haunted you for a long, long time: anxiety. That uncomfortable, often terrifying presence that appears in the silent pre-dawn hours or ambushes you mid-conversation, right when everything should be perfectly fine. But now maybe, just maybe, you can see it for what it has always been. A potent sign of life. A visceral cry from your body. A crucial warning from your mind. An echoing call from your very consciousness. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not a walking defect. What you feel is entirely consistent with the world you inhabit, with the personal history you carry, and with how strenuously you've been trying to appear functional in a society that so often suffers from a collective denial of reality. The anxiety you feel is, in fact, a reflection of your inherent clarity, of your profound sensitivity, of your uncanny ability to perceive what is not right, even when everyone else is expertly pretending it is. Alan Watts wisely stated that we try to fix the outside world without fixing what is inside. And perhaps that is the ultimate invitation of anxiety, to turn inward, not as an escape, but as a vital reconnection, as a reclamation of your own sacred inner space. Because when you stop fleeing from yourself and start truly listening to what you feel, without haste, without judgment, without masks, something transformative shifts. Anxiety loses its role as the villain, and it begins to transform into your most profound teacher. Sapolsky, with all his scientific precision, unequivocally showed that understanding the body is an essential, non-negotiable part of this process. Watts, with his philosophical clarity, revealed that radically accepting the now is the ultimate key to freedom. And now, the profound task falls to you, to unite these two powerful truths. Not to cure anxiety, as if it were some virus to be eradicated, but to mature through it, to become someone more whole, more aware, more profoundly present. And this isn't a destination reached in one video, or even in a single day. This is a journey, a continuous, courageous work of unraveling lies, of unconditioning yourself from societal pressures, of observing yourself with unflinching honesty. It is the work of a lifetime, of allowing anxiety to teach you how to live, instead of merely survive. Finally, understanding that true security, paradoxically, lies in stopping the desperate search for it altogether. If this video resonated with you on a deeper level, I want to hear about it. Let me know in the comments what impacted you the most. What part kept echoing in your mind? What excerpt do you wish someone had told you years ago? Your words could be the lifeline for another person experiencing exactly what you're feeling right now. And of course, if this content helped you see anxiety in a different light, please subscribe to the channel. Here, psychology is unfiltered. Here, philosophy meets the body. And it doesn't stop here. The next video could be the key to continuing this transformative process. It's important. I'll see you there.